Okay, so that's all really great in theory, but how do you actually do it? The number one tool that I have in my consultant toolbox, bar none, without question, is something that we call a core story. If done correctly and used well, it is the most powerful tool that you will ever have for growing your business, and I truly believe that, and that's based on years of experience. A great core story will inform your website, your marketing, your collateral, your sales training, your sales scripts. It will inform everything that you do. Literally, it should provide a rock solid foundation for every single thing you do to grow your business. Basically, in my direct personal experience, it makes everything you do easier, faster, and more consistent. As a matter of fact, recently I was asked to step in and help another consultant who was on the verge of losing a client. And so I started working with this client, and it was fine. That's all it was. Fine. Everything just seemed to take longer. Everything we did was more time consuming. Nothing really came naturally. And one day I realized, that's the problem. This client does not have a core story. Okay, so what is a core story and why do I think it's so powerful? Okay, we've already talked about that market data is always more powerful than product data. When you talk product, most of the time you get pushed into talking about price. And who wants to talk about price? I don't want to talk about price. Every washing machine washes clothes. How much does it cost? Every lighting design installation involves lights and a technician to install them. How much does it cost? Do you know that you can have someone install energy efficient lights in your business at home? And sure, you'll save money, but you can have someone install a full system that monitors itself and identifies problems and identifies waste. And if you're, say, an administrator of a hospital, that system can monitor the heat output of your lighting system. Well, why would you care about that? Heat is a huge problem in hospitals, one that costs a great deal of time and money to manage. Got lights? Who's got the lowest price? But if you're an energy efficient systems guy who can talk to all of the hospitals in the state about how much heat old systems put out, the heat reduction, which leads to healthier environments, reduces growth of bacteria, and it improves the health and the safety and the care of patients. And that leads to reduced liability due to the spread of inflamed illnesses. Wow, what happens? You've gone from being the guy who installs energy efficient lights to being an expert in your field. You're the guy that I can turn to for sound advice. Like Superman, you can help me solve problems, maybe even problems that I didn't even know that I had. So a core story is a highly researched educational presentation that focuses on the needs of your clients. See, most people are so busy focusing on themselves. Let me tell you about my product. See this fancy little feature? Let me tell you about my company, how long we've been in business. But what happens if you're a home builder, for example, and you know that your dream buyers are people who have a very high incidence of heart disease and diabetes? What if you know that your best buyers, their children, are at a much greater risk for drug abuse? And what if you as a home builder had in your marketing materials information and solutions that you provide to your prospects about those issues? And what actions that they could take to make their lives better? What kind of home builder would you be who sells $8 million to $12 million homes and you're helping your prospects get healthy, and live longer, more productive, and more joyful lives. I'll tell you what kind of home builder you'd be. You'd be a brilliant one. So Core Story is exactly that. It's a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the natural conclusion is that when it comes time to buy, they buy from you. So a Core Story starts with an analysis of your prospects and your buyers. What are their pain points? What is it that's worrying them and hurting them? And look, I always tell my clients, you don't ever want to manipulate someone on their pain points. You don't ever want to dig it in and make it worse. But if you can genuinely acknowledge what their pain is, then you can come up with real, meaningful, genuine solutions for solving that pain. And you can educate your prospects. You can tell them, look, this is the solution, this is the better solution, or a combination of solutions is really what you need. They may not know that. You can tell them about the pitfalls and the risks that they may encounter. And you can also help them understand the steps that they need to take to ensure that they get the success that they both want and deserve. So what happens is, instead of selling, 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 you and your team are the people that they turn to when they need help or advice. And when it comes time to buy, are they going to buy from Joe down the street? Or are they going to buy from their trusted advisors, the people who are there that help them come up with the great solutions that they need? Of course, the person that they call in a crisis is the person that they're ultimately going to buy from, right? Okay, so why a story? Simple. We relate to stories. We remember stories. Look, I can stand up here all day and I can tell you statistics, right? Are you going to remember those? No. You're going to remember the story of me on the shuttle to the airport, right? Okay, so let me tell you another story, and this one is a great one. Would you like to hear the story about how one of my clients increased her revenue 298 million% in just 8 months using my favorite power tool, the Core Story? 298 million% increase in 8 months. Now, I promise this is a story that you're not going to forget. So the client that I mentioned before, the high-end home developer who was just about to finish the year with $0 in revenue. Zero. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you'd gone the entire year and your revenue for that year was $0? So this client and I began working together in October. And one of the things that I absolutely love about the CEO of this company is that she's very smart. She knew her business was in trouble, and she hired a consultant, an expert. And she was smart enough to actually listen to that consultant, that expert. Believe me, that doesn't always happen with clients. So one of the first things that we did is I convinced her that she should buy a Core Story, that it was an investment that she needed to make in her business. And she agreed, and we hired the absolute best company in the business to do that. And frankly, really, it's the only company who truly understands how to effectively build a Core Story. And the name of that company is Empire Research Group. If you want a Core Story, that's the only company that I recommend. That's the only company that I would hire. So she hired them, and they built her a truly killer Core Story. And her dream clients are the world's wealthiest, the highest net worth individuals in the world. Those were her dream clients. And among many of the things that Empire discovered about this group of prospects is that their stress levels are extreme. And we all think if we had, millions and millions of dollars, we'd be living the high life and everything would be fun and happy. Well, this group, their stress levels are so high and it's dramatically affecting their health. For one thing, they never take vacations. Their families may go on a month-long vacation to someplace wonderful, but the breadwinner only shows up for a couple of days and then they rush off to close the next deal or put out the next fire or solve the next problem. So their children are at a 300% higher risk of using drugs. But the research also showed that people who live near the sea can dramatically cut their risk of heart disease, for example, just by living near the sea. Yeah, so what? What does any of that have to do with the features of these homes? Nothing, but it had everything to do with what the prospects cared about. Let me show you just a sampling of some of the things that we did with this client's core story. One of the first things that we did was we made a movie. We had an opportunity to have another company come in and host a party at one of our properties. And the attendees at this party were some of the wealthiest people from around the world. There were going to be 80 people in our properties. Wow, what a boon that is, right? It was a little bit more challenging than that because there was a total and complete 100% marketing blackout. We were not allowed to market at all. We weren't allowed to talk about the features of the property. We weren't allowed to even let people know that they were for sale. So, problem solved. We have a killer core story, right? What do we do with it? We make a core story movie. And in that movie, it's a fact-based movie, and it's all about heart disease and diabetes and troubled teenagers and the health benefits of living by the sea. There's nothing in it selling. It's just information and a beautifully put together movie. Oh, we also had a little bit of research from Sotheby's that showed that people are now starting to buy luxury properties the same way that people collect art. Do you want a Rembrandt or do you want a luxury property? No marketing, no talking about the features of the homes that we were selling, just fact-filled entertainment. Talk about effective. So the next thing that we did with a core story made the sales team crazy. In one afternoon, I trained them on the basics of the core story. We role-played, we had conversations for hours, and they were under strict orders. No selling, zero selling. Walk up to a prospect, talk to them about the beauty of the sea, steer the conversation to elements of the core story. Can you imagine that? The first thing that a salesperson wants to do is jump into features and benefits and this and that. Not at this party. They had one goal, and they had one goal only: get business cards. These were our dream buyers, and they were all here in one place, right? If we could even just have a fraction of them, we were on our way to really creating success. Can you imagine how often the richest people in the world are pitched? They're not handing over their business cards to some realtor who wants to sell them a house. The salespeople thought I was crazy, and they also thought I was really annoying. How on earth were they going to sell houses if they weren't even allowed to talk about them? So what was the result of this little party? Of the 80 attendees, we walked away that night with more than 60 leads. More than half. We had 60 dream buyers that not only we had made contact with and we had had great conversations with, but we had relationships with them. So the next thing that we did is, as people were embarking on the boat, they had to take a boat from the mainland over to the island where the properties are located, and as they were embarking on the boat, we put up 7-foot displays of 5 of the most powerful facts that we had in our core story. Again, these were not property related. They were not features and benefits. These were, here's a little information about you, and here's a little solution that can help you solve problems that are affecting your life. The other thing that we did that was really fun, and we left up after the party, is throughout the party venue, we had framed core story art. We told more of the core story, and it was also really a great conversation piece for those salespeople who wanted to talk about features and benefits. As they were standing next to someone, they could look over and say, "Oh, did you see this?" And that would allow them to launch into a conversation that was about something that the prospect potentially was interested in. We moved on from there. We redesigned the website to make it more educational and focused on the buyer. And one of the things that I always love to do with a core story, because it is so powerful, is I like to wring every little piece of value out of it that I possibly can. So one of the things that we did that turned out to be really worthwhile is that we enlisted the help of brokers from around the entire area. And they really didn't know that we were enlisting their help. But here's what we did. We took our core story movie and we turned it into a webinar to train those brokers. The way that we were doing things was very different from how it was traditionally done. No features and benefits, right? All educational. So we wanted brokers, as they were meeting with their clients, to use our language. We wanted them to use our materials. So we did a webinar, we trained them to do that, and then everyone who attended got special links that had all the collateral created for them. So we said, hey, go back and look at people you sold high-end properties to in the last 10 years. They may be ready to buy again. Here's email 1, already pre-written for you, on the back, hidden on the back side of our website. Take email 1, cut and paste it, and send them this wonderful educational video straight from the core story as a little gift. A couple days later, here's email 2, send it out. And oh, by the way, here's another video, another little gift, all education based, all about the things that the people that we knew were our best buyers would care about. All they had to do was cut and paste. We had done all of the work for them. Cut and paste, sit back and make your commissions. The next thing that we did that kind of fed into all of this is that we created a series of core story videos, and we put them on our website, we put them in our drip email campaign. They all had talking points, and they were little gifts that we could send out to prospects, all helping to solve their problems. Even the ones who started out at the bottom of the buying pyramid, they're not interested in buying a property. I don't need another house. I'm not interested right now. We were able to, by telling them about things that they cared about, for example, one of our prospects, his father and brother died from heart disease. He was afraid of dying from heart disease. Do you think we caught his attention? Now look, we're trying to sell him a home. And the way that we get to him is by helping him recognize that there is a solution potentially to his heart issues. Okay? So we bring them in at the bottom of the pyramid and we drive them up so that they're in that top 3% who are buying now. They're going from not interested to buying now. Our advertising, our PR, our brochures are all focused on the client's story, on the needs of the prospects. And it all concludes very brilliantly, every great core story concludes with what we call setting the buying criteria. So an effective core story details what keeps your prospects awake at night. It provides them with solutions, and it tells them exactly what questions they should ask before buying. By doing this, you're helping them be the best consumers they can possibly be. Before you buy, what are the key questions that you should ask? And guess what? If you're the one who's supplying the questions, who has the answers? So your client has seen your website, they've watched your videos, they have a copy of your brochure. And when they're out talking to a competitor, they ask those critical questions. Your competitor's sales team has never seen the questions. They're not going to be prepared to provide answers, and they certainly are not going to be prepared to provide the best answers. But your team has been highly trained, they've role-played, they've used the core story, they're prepared to answer the questions and to give the absolute best answers to those questions. Okay, so wrapping up my story, that developer that I was telling you about, we began working together in October. By March, 5 months into it, we hadn't made a sale. We had ended the year with 0 revenue. We had started the new year with 0 revenue. By the end of the 5th month, finally, we'd made a sale. By the end of the 8th month, every property was sold. We were completely sold out. Revenue was up 298 million%. Okay, so while 298 million% may be a bit dramatic, and not everyone is going to experience that same level of growth, my personal and direct experience is that it comes much easier, much faster when you have a core story.